Hello, my name's Andrew Thake. I'm a divisional director with Resourcing Tomorrow. Delighted to be joined today by Dan Wilton, who's the CEO and director of First Mining Gold. Delighted to have you with us today, Dan.
Andrew, thanks for having me. It's great to reconnect here.
Dan, some of our viewers may not be familiar with First Mining Gold. Can you just tell us a little bit about the company?
Sure. So First Mining is a project developer with two of the largest undeveloped gold projects in Canada. Our Springpole gold project is in advanced stages of the environmental assessment process and targeting that EA decision by the end of the year here in 2025. So really one of the most advanced large projects in Canada. And our Duparquet project is one of the largest undeveloped gold projects right in the middle of the Abitibi Gold Belt in Quebec, which is obviously one of the most sought after gold terrains in the world. So, and that's our focus at Duparquet has been on exploration as we continue to find and expand the existing mineralization that's there.
And you've mentioned there that both the projects are based in Canada. Can you just talk a little bit about the Canadian advantages that gold projects such as yours have?
Well, I mean, Andrew, I think if you look really across the globe at what are the premier jurisdictions that large mining companies want to own large projects, Canada and Australia are two of the top. Now, for all that the jurisdiction in Canada has its challenges in terms of going through permitting processes, particularly. Those historically have been, pretty cumbersome processes to undertake. We have seen a real change in the political environment in Canada, and a real change in kind of the general population's understanding of and desire to see large mining projects built in the country. And that comes on the tail of tariffs and some real existential discussions about what it means to be Canadian here over the last few years. So we're seeing a real domestic push to see projects developed in the right way, particularly with involvement and participation with Indigenous communities. So, I think the one thing I would say, when you look around the world at kind of security of mineral tenure and a place that, once you have a project permitted that you want to own it, I think Canada is top of the list.
I think that's a really interesting point that you made there, because obviously there's been announcements from the new administration about streamlining the permitting process. But how does a company like First Mining Gold balance that need to go and streamline permitting and have permitting done faster, but also ensuring that you bring along the Indigenous communities as well? Are there like specific examples you can give at First Mining Gold as how you've managed to balance that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it goes without saying, although I think we need to say it and trumpet the fact that we have done the work with communities. We've been working very closely with a number of the communities around Springpole for years. And I think, what we have learned through that process is you really need to be engaging with communities early. And there's no substitute for regular dialogue. There's no substitute for building relationships, because ultimately you're trying to build a long-term relationship with these communities. Everyone knows that you can't have mineral development anywhere in this country, anywhere in the world, where you don't have local populations that really benefit from it. So, we've got some great examples in Canada where we're now starting to see some of the communities really being fundamentally transformed by economic benefits from participation in mining. You've got unprecedented levels of access to capital that Indigenous communities have. And so they're flipping the script. It's not just, a group whose rights you need to respect and, ultimately want to have a little participation. Indigenous communities today can be meaningful equity partners in projects because both federal and provincial governments have outlined all kinds of loan guarantee programs and other avenues for the communities to really economically participate as owners. So it's a really exciting time. A lot of it's still kind of just being figured out right now, but what I would say is, for all that the government talks about streamlining this process, the only way that you speed up this process is by providing capacity to communities to participate earlier in these economic development conversations.
Mm-hmm. So looking ahead to the next 6 to 12 months, first of all, looking at Springpole first, what are the upcoming catalysts we can expect to see at Springpole?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we're right at the point now in our federal environmental assessment process where we're in the back and forth of comment response. So we submitted a final environmental assessment in November of last year. We've been through a public comment period. We're in the back and forth response, answering comments and questions from the regulators, from Indigenous communities. That process is it still, has a path to go down, but when we're through that back and forth process, we're kind of at the point where, the federal agency, the Impact Assessment Agency, is going to start writing up its report toward a decision document. And, that's very exciting as we kind of get into that next phase. Okay, we've answered all the questions, and now the project's going into the final stage of that environmental assessment. Lots of little milestones along the way on there as well, but the real key milestone for us on that side is that federal environmental assessment decision, which is targeted kind of for the end of the year. So provincial environmental assessment will likely come a little bit after that. And then along that process, we know the communities we're working with, the number of them are working towards their own Indigenous-led assessments of the project, which really, I think, the most comprehensive Indigenous-led assessments that have ever been done in Ontario. We've really helped fund that process that they've developed and executed themselves. It's been, very effective, and that's, as we understand it, targeting for, a decision to be coming in that same time frame. So there's lots of these sort of, steps along the way as we get to a point where, we'd like to be talking about and call it Q1 next year, where we have agreements signed with communities, we have federal and provincial environmental assessment approval on, a project that can produce more than 300,000 ounces a year in, 100 kilometers from Red Lake, Ontario. And I think we get to that point where everyone is aligned and, committed on driving forward on that project. That's worth more than $11 an ounce. So massive
Definitely.
opportunity to see that value unlocked and advanced here over the course of the next 6 to 12 months.
And your other major project is the Duparquet project. Can you give us a bit of an update as to what we can expect to see over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, lots coming at Duparquet. So we're about 9,000 meters into an 18,000 meter drill program there, and just continue to find more gold. And that's one of the things that has always been very exciting about this project. It was kind of perceived, it's been drilled out. When we bought it at 275,000 meters of drilling and about 4 kilometers of strike. But we're filling in some of the gaps in the drilling. We're expanding a bunch of those resources to depth. And importantly, we're finding these higher grade zones on the contacts of the cyanide intrusive, which is the main ore body, and some of these mafic volcanic rocks and sedimentary hosted rocks that are on the north and south contact. So very interesting. It's one of those places, Andrew, and there's not many of them in the world, but it's one of those places where literally like almost every drill hole, you're finding more gold. And we know that the total resource there, call it an M&I resource of 3.5 million ounces and another inferred resource of 2.5 on our entire property package. We have a very good sense. It's a straight line from there to 10 million ounces and we can see exactly where you need to expand these resources to demonstrate that. So it's a really exciting time. And at the same time, we've got some important environmental work going on at Duparquet as well. Just continuing to move forward and manage some of the existing environmental legacy from the old mine that's there.
A lot of Canadian mining companies out there, a lot of great gold mining companies out there. How does First Mining Gold compare to your peers?
Well, listen, I think in terms of size, if you are going to own a project in Canada, you want to own a big project. I think you can reliably say that, 5 million ounce plus gold projects in Canada are the most strategic resources in the industry. So we've got a couple of those as a start. I think when you look at how advanced projects are, where they are in a permitting process, it's really important because particularly in a country like Canada, those processes can be long. I mean, we've been in this EA process for 7 years. And the only thing worse than having been in an EA process for 7 years is having been in an EA process for anything less than 7 years, to be honest, because you're going to have to go through it, right? So, I think when you look at where you could actually get a shovel in the ground and projects in Canada over the next 5 years, I think there's 3 projects, and Springpole is one of them. So, yeah, it really advanced stage, well-defined, really limited geologic risk in these projects in tier 1 jurisdictions that you can still buy at, a little bit more than $10 an ounce when the gold price is sitting today at $3,300, right? And the economics of these projects, very strong economics, but our economic studies, Andrew, were run at $1,600 and $1,800 gold.
Wow.
So you start bringing those up to where you'd run a study today, 24, 2,500. Every $100 in the gold price is $250 million of after-tax net present value in our projects. So just sink that in when you're talking about something that's $800 higher. That's another $2 billion of fundamental value just from gold price leverage. So large, advanced stage, well de-risked, and massive leverage to the gold price that you can still buy at deep, deep value.
Well, we are absolutely thrilled to be welcoming First Mining Gold to Resourcing Tomorrow this December. We do sort of wish you all the well in the run up to the event. Really looking forward to seeing you at Resourcing Tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time. That was Dan Wilton, Chief Executive Officer and Director of First Mining Gold. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Andrew.